Hey YouTube, Repo Man 64.
Whoops, I took off the wrong thing. Take off the glasses. Um, I found something last night. I actually got woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's weird because I don't wake up before the alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work. But I woke up at 3 a.m. and like I said, I'm going to show you a chat group that I'm in with several watchmen, and I said it was either the Holy Spirit that woke me up or the chili I ate last night. So we're going to go through this timeline again and take a look at something that I think I found and learn from each other and see if this is anything that might make sense. I want to go to the pictures first and start here. All right. We know that Jesus, at the 9th hour, gave up the ghost. It says it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. So for 3 hours there was darkness. The sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. And remember that story, the veil was tore from top to bottom, signifying that Jesus came and fulfilled the law. There was no reason to have the Ark of the Covenant hidden like it was, because Jesus now has paid. It is finished, he said at the cross. And when Jesus had cried, and you'll find this in Luke, you won't find this in Matthew and Mark. And when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. So he gave up the ghost at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the other two, you'll see in Matthew and Mark, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Which is what the Jew and the sleepy church will say at the moment of the rapture that is going to take place here very shortly. And I found some very interesting things. This is found in the book of Jubilees. It says, on the new moon of the 4th month, Adam and his wife went from the Garden of Eden, and they dwelt in the land of Elda, in the land of their creation. So they left the Garden of Eden in the 4th month on the new moon. I could not figure out when this was. I didn't know what day it was of the 4th month. I assumed it was the first day of the 4th month, which would have been Tevet 1. But with more research, we find that the new moon did not occur until Tevet 10, which is Christmas Day. They left the garden on Christmas Day, December 25th. From the cross to October the 8th is 192 days. And that's a very interesting number, because that's the amount of time the sun stays between the two equinoxes. The equinox beginning happens on March 16th, and it happens again on September the 27th, 26th. So it's 192, 193 days of summer. And it's very interesting that Jesus goes to the cross on March 30th, and then on October the 8th, he is circumcised. And I'll show you all this in a moment. Likewise, the southern hemisphere gets the sun for 173 days. From October the 8th to March the 30th, they get the winter, well, they get the summer sun, we get winter for 173 days. If you remember, I was on God a Minute a couple days ago, and in there, Dale was there, Eddie was there, and of course Aaron from God a Minute, and I was there. And Dale sends me this. Let me get rid of this here so you can see the bottom. Dale sends me this, and he says, when Jesus Christ died, it was midnight on the prime meridian. So I'm like, well, that's interesting. When Christ, our bridegroom, returns at a midnight cry, will the entire world be on the same day? Is the midnight hour referred to possibly the midnight hour of the international dateline? And he says, just something interesting to consider. And then I said, wait, and my brain is running 100 miles an hour. I said, that's interesting. So 3 p.m. in Israel makes it the same day on the entire planet. I said, I didn't know this. And Dale said, yep. This is because the day begins and ends at the international dateline. It blew my mind when I found this out. Who would think to look into that without divine prompting? All credit to the Lord. Of course, all credit goes to the Lord. Anything we discover and begin to understand, all credit goes to the Lord. And I said, yes, I love these little discoveries that God leads us to let us know we need to keep watching. So, 3 p.m., Jesus is in Israel. At that particular moment, at 3 p.m., just before 3 p.m., the entire planet is on the same day. Is this the moment that the rapture will occur? 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Israel time. My time would be, let me think, that would be 7 a.m. my time. That would make a lot of sense. And at the prime meridian, it would be midnight, the midnight hour. Okay. Now I want you to notice this right here. This is 2 Chronicles 7:8. Also, at the same time, Solomon kept the feast 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great congregation, from the entering into Hamath unto the river of Egypt, and in the 8th day they made a solemn assembly. Notice the 8th day they made a solemn assembly. There's a lot of information here that flooded into my brain at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I actually text all this information in this group text so I would remember it all. And I'm here trying to articulate it to you. Hopefully I can get it through. And it says in the 20th day, so the 23rd day of the 7th month, the 23rd day of the 7th month, which we know is Tishri 23. Tishri is the 7th month, the 23rd day of the 7th month. On my timeline, using the equinox as the head of the year, that falls on October the 8th. I'm going to continue on here. Glad and merry in their hearts for the goodness of the Lord that had showed unto David and to Solomon and to Israel, his people. Let's go on over here to 1 Kings 8:65. And at that time Solomon held a feast, and all Israel with him, a great congregation. This is the second time they call this a huge congregation. A lot of people are here. It's an enormous amount of people. From the entering of Hamath unto the river of Egypt before the Lord our God 7 days. It says it before, but this time it clarifies. It says 7 days and 7 days, even 14 days. Now wait a second, 14 days. And in the middle of these 2 7 days, on the 8th day, he sent the people away. Remember, this was a solemn assembly on the 8th day. I thought that I should remove or go backwards 15 days, but on the timeline there's nothing that falls on those 15 days. Nothing makes sense if you go backwards. But if you go forwards, then you see an extra 7 days. 7 days that they had an assembly. On the 8th day Solomon sent them away. There is another 7 days. Is this the 7 years of tribulation? Does it begin right after we're gone? Another 7 days, the extra 7 days. This is a family that Matt knows, and I'll give you it says up there at the top, Jen Doby41 at yahoo.com. They have set up a GoFundMe with a cap. You can only donate to a point. I've never asked for donations, but Matt knows these people personally, and they need help. They were over there. Apparently they were robbed, and their passports were taken, all the credit cards were taken, and everything was taken. They'll be fine once they get back to the United States. They're in Dominican Republic right now, and they need help. And I'm going to put a link to their YouTube, to their PayPal if you could help them out. All right. Now, I thought that perhaps Jesus was born on the Feast of Trumpets, or I thought perhaps he was born on the first day of creation. But I always had a problem with that, because on the 8th day he would have been circumcised, and nothing between those dates of creation, 8 days later, or Feast of Trumpets and 8 days later, is there any indication that the Bible shows us that these were important days? True, we do fall within the 10 days of awe, but we fall 2 days short of tabernacles. However, if Jesus is born on tabernacles and he tabernacles with us, 8 days later, the solemn assembly would have been the day he was circumcised. Every event of Jesus' life must appear in a timeline. It must appear to be an important day. This is an important day in in an 8-day-old Jewish baby that they get circumcised. It's very important that happen. And the only date that I can see that separates by 8 days is the Feast of Tabernacles. If this is true, that it is the Feast of Tabernacles, and 8 days later he was circumcised, he was born on the first day of Tabernacles, that means that Mary conceived on Christmas Day. Do we really think God is going to allow us for over 1,000 years to celebrate the birth of Jesus on a wrong day? He's in control. He's in charge. December 25th, I believe now, and I ignored it for a long time, even though it made sense that it fell there, until I realized that this is what woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning, was those 8 days that of him being circumcised. Mary conceives, and also I had another problem. If Mary conceives on Christmas Day, and she spends 6 days, 7 days walking or riding her horse or whatever they rode back in those days to get to her cousin Elizabeth, who the Bible says very clearly was exactly 6 months pregnant. I had a 7-day break. I couldn't figure it out. I could not make it match. So when I moved it, Mary conceiving on December 25th, and her taking 6 days to get to Elizabeth, and she is in fact 6 months pregnant, that makes John born on the day, of course years earlier, but on the day that Jesus went to the cross, on Nisan 14. Again, it fits. Everything must fit. Okay, so I wanted to show you who is in the little chat group that we're in. This is Matt, Wackadoodle Samoan, but he's changed to his name. That's his YouTube right there. And the Cataclysm, Tony Early is in there as well, and we all brainstorm in here. Will from Worship and Watch is in there, and then Spinebreak, who does not have YouTube, but he backs us up with a lot of Bible verses and studies and searches. He's awesome helping us out, putting all this type of stuff together. All right, I want to let me see, is that it? Yeah, this is it. This is the timeline. I want to get back over here. I want to show you this up at the top. You can see where I have Mary conceiving when the flood ends. I have her conceiving on the first day of Hanukkah. I don't know when she conceives. Nothing matches exactly, except for, and they do match, because when you come over here 3 months earlier, which is 9 months after that date, and Jesus, of course, would have fulfilled the exact 40 weeks. He wouldn't have come a day early or a day late. And if you show Jesus being conceived on the first day of Hanukkah, you have an 8-day festival of lights. And I thought, okay, he's conceived there, but he's not born there. So those 8 days don't help us out. So he would have been born on Pentecost. And then I said, no, that's not fitting, because 8 days after that, when he's circumcised, you have 4 days until the Feast of Trumpets, and then you have 4 more days, which would put you 4 days in the days of awe. It's not matching. It doesn't match. So I'm not thoroughly convinced. And I said that in my previous videos. I'm not thoroughly convinced that that's when Jesus was conceived or born, because it's not matching up with his circumcision. Then I went to when the flood ends. This is the day the flood ends. It ends on Kislev 27, which is December the 11th. That's when it ends. And I do the math from there, and I land on Tabernacle, the Feast of Trumpets, the Feast of Trumpets. And I'm like, okay, that's nice. It lands right there. That's perfect. That's 9 months, 40 weeks. But again, 8 days takes us 8 days into the days of awe, and it doesn't fall on anything. So I'm confused, and this is what got me up last night. And I says, wait a second. God's not going to be put to shame. We're not going to celebrate his birthday. And you know the Jews celebrate the birth of somebody from the moment of conception. They figure out when the child was conceived, and this is their birthday. Mary conceived on December the 25th. And when you count 40 weeks exactly, you land on Tabernacle, Sukkot. This date is Tishri 15. This date is September 30th or October the 1st, depending what side of the planet you're on. So, maybe it was 3 p.m. actually. I know it was they said in the afternoon, evening perhaps, so what's cool about this is 8 days later, the solemn assembly, on the 8th day, they would have circumcised him. How fitting is this, that tabernacles last 8 days, and on the 8th day, Tishri 23, like we just read in Kings, that Solomon sent them away, and there was gladness in their hearts, and here Jesus is being circumcised on the 8th day. Tabernacles ends, but then there's this other 7 days. Could this be the moment when we're raptured, and then 7 years begins to be counted? You can see down here that I have the flood. Previous to the law being handed down to Moses in Exodus 12, the head of the year was Tishri 15. That was the head of the year. Feast of Trumpets. That's when it happened. But then the law was handed down that the head of the year would be moved to the other day of equal parts, all the way back on March 16th. Noah spent 1 year and 10 days on the ark. So on October 31st is when the flood began. On Heshbon 27, November the 10th, 11th, is when Noah left the ark into the new world. A lot of stuff is going to go on here with the 2 raptures I believe there's going to be, and the gathering at the end of those saints that will go into the millennium. So we look over here again, and we see that Mary conceives on December 25th. Jesus is born on the first day of Tabernacles on Tishri 15th, which is September 30th, October 1st, and is circumcised on October the 8th at the end of Tabernacles. And then there are another 7 days, which is what we saw. So this is what I want to show you. This is where it starts. Let me pull this over so you can see. 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:01, I make this. I know that these guys are asleep, and I'm hoping that their phones aren't dinging as I'm doing this. But I want a record of everything that's flooding into my brain at 3 o'clock in the morning. Woke up out of a dead sleep, and I don't know why. It never happens to me. But this is what happens to me last night. And I said, this is cool. And this is everything that I'm going through at 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, I think Adam was removed from the garden on December 25th. Adam was removed in the 4th month. We know that. We read that. But we didn't know what day. And he was removed on the new moon. I read that to you earlier. He was removed on the new moon in the 4th month. December, let's see here, 16th. I'm sorry. December the 16th, which is Tevet 1, is the 4th month. What day? I didn't know. I had no idea what day that he was removed from the garden. I just knew it was the 4th month and the new moon. How are you going to calculate that? I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I'm working on this again at 3 o'clock in the morning. Mary would have conceived for him to be born on Tabernacles, September 30th. I wrote November 1st, but I fixed it at the bottom, October 1st. There are a couple of verses pointing to Jesus as being the second Adam. Adam would have begun his punishment when he was removed from the garden, which I've read was sometime in the 4th month. I said, this is kind of huge, and I said, oops, October 31st. I continue over here, and I begin to realize that everything is falling into place. And I believe this is backwards. It is from December 25th to October 1st, it is 40 weeks, 280 days. October 1st. It's 280 days, and that's 40 weeks. That's how long Jesus would have been I think let's see here. I'm confusing myself. October 1st, December 15, 180 days, 280 days, 40 weeks, and he lands on, it's backwards. He was conceived on December the 25th and born on October the 1st. Sometimes when you do time and date, it does it backwards, but it's actually accurate right there. Let's see. I knew it was the 4th month. Adam was removed, but I didn't know the day, so I simply used the first day. And I did. I thought perhaps it was Tibet 1, the 4th month, and the first day. I didn't know what else to use. I knew Christmas was 10 days away, but I didn't know to use that at the time. But if he was born on the first day of Tabernacles, then he was conceived on Christmas Day. And then I said, God would not allow us to celebrate his birth on the wrong day for over 1,000 years. We've been celebrating his conception. We have been celebrating Jesus' conception. That's what we've been celebrating this whole time. We call it a pagan day, and it is, but God used evil for good, and this is the day that Jesus was conceived. All right. This is the book of Jubilees. This is the Dead Sea Scrolls that they found, and it all confirms itself. And it says here, the Second Temple period gives time frames for the events that led to the fall of man by stating that the serpent convinced Eve to eat the fruit on the 17th day of the 2nd month. The 17th day of the 2nd month, you recognize that date as the date the flood started. This is the date mankind was judged for eating the fruit. This is the date that mankind was judged and the entire world was covered in water. This is the same exact, God uses these dates over and over again. We just have to find them. They lived in the garden for 7 years. Now, in the 8th year after Adam's creation, in the 2nd month and 17th day is when they ate the apple. It also states that they were removed from the garden on the new moon of the 4th month of that year. Now, again, I thought it was Tibet 1, December 16th. But Spinebreaker, Kevin, did a little research, which we're going to see here in a minute, and I'm going to show you when the new moon was on that date. I said, and it's just me alone at this point. It's still, what time is it here? It's 3:11 now. 3:11 in the morning. Is there a way to verify this in Stellarium? Was it a full moon? Which is what, I wrote full moon, but a new moon is what I wanted to say, I believe. On Tibet 10, December 25th, in the 8th year from creation. Because it says he was removed on a new moon. Right here, it says up here, removed from the garden on the 4th month of that year. It doesn't say it there, but here it does. It says in the book of Jubilees, on the new moon of the 4th month, Adam and his wife went forth from the Garden of Eden, and they dwelt in the land of Elda. So we got to figure out when the new moon was in the 4th month of the 8th year. So that will tell you what day it was of the 4th month when we know when the new moon was. All right, so I took a picture of my timeline to show him. I said, so check this out. If Jesus was born on October the 1st, the first day of Tabernacles, then he would have been circumcised on the 8th day, the last day of Tabernacles, October the 8th. I think it's possible the rapture will occur on October the 8th at 3 p.m. Israel time, or 2:59. Sometime before 3, just moments before 3 p.m. is when everyone on the planet is on the same date. When it's the same day on the entire planet. And then I'm still thinking. I'm by myself, remember. Nobody's responding to me. Here we are at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:03 a.m., right here, this text. I have always had a problem with Mary going to see Elizabeth and her being 6 months pregnant. I could not account for the time it took for her to travel 6 or 7 days to get to Elizabeth. If she had actually conceived, like I thought, on Hanukkah, I could not account for those walking days. The moment she conceived, John would have had to have been already 6 months in the womb. I couldn't account for those days. But this literally what woke me up and what fixed this problem. Now she can conceive on Christmas Day. She can walk 6 days, and on New Year's Day, she sees, New Year's Day being March 16th, she visits with Elizabeth, who is now exactly, the moment she gets there, like the Bible records, is exactly 6 months pregnant. I could not account for the time it took her to travel 6 or 7 days to get to Elizabeth. And I know these birthdays must start on an important day when they are conceived, and they must be born 40 weeks later on an important day. Jesus was not going to, he was going to fulfill his exact time in the womb, his 40 weeks. He was going to be there to the very day. And that puts us exactly on Tabernacles, October the 1st. I said this fixes that 7-day problem I had. John was conceived on Tammuz 1, June 17th, the day the tops of the mountains were seen, and born on the day Jesus went to the cross, March 30th. Mary conceived on December the 25th, and Jesus is born on October the 1st, the first day of Tabernacles, and is circumcised on the 8th day, the last day of Tabernacles. And Solomon sent everyone away with a glad heart on the 7th month and the 23rd day, October the 8th. And I just said the puzzle came together. March 30th to October the 8th is 193 days, the exact amount of time of days in the summer season, the exact amount of time between March 16th, equal lux, and September 26th, equal lux, exactly 193 days. So when God says a good son gathers in the summer, he was giving us a hint as to how many days it was from the cross to October the 8th. It was a perfect example. He wasn't saying that we had to be raptured out of here by summer's end. He was saying that that number between those two dates was 192 days, as well as between March 30th and October the 8th is also 192 days. He was telling us the date a good son gathers in summer. And then this is the winter time from October the 8th until March the 30th, when Jesus was circumcised to when Jesus went to the cross. It was 173 days, and that's the exact amount of time from September the 26th until March the 16th. It is 173 days. A good son gathers in summer. This is how many days are in the winter due to the equal lux, and then this is a picture of the equal lux. You can see how this is how the this is called the procession of this. This is the, I forget the name of this. I had it on the tip of my tongue. This is our seasons, and this is what happens as the earth goes around the sun. and the equator is exposed to the sun on one side. The Earth doesn't move. It's unmovable. It's unchanging. It doesn't budge. It stays perfectly still. The North Pole is always pointing at the same constellation. And what causes our seasons are, as the Earth moves around the sun, a different part of the planet is exposed to the sun. And that's what causes this figure eight. The upside, the top side of the figure eight, from where that line I show you is, you can see it. Let me expand it here. Can I expand it? Yes. Over here on the left, you see September 26th is an equal lux. It is straight across from the other equilux of March 16th. Both days are days of equal parts. This is what the sun does at the exact same time. Or maybe this high noon, I'm not sure what it is, but it is a figure eight. Eight. It is a figure eight. October the 8th is the day Jesus was circumcised. Could October the 8th be the day of the rapture? Like I said, this blew my mind. I worked on this, and now Spinebreaker's awake. I'm at work. Spinebreaker's awake, Kevin, and he is beginning to help me with Stellarium. He said, wow, this is amazing stuff. Here's what I found in Stellarium. Again, I did all this so I could record it, so I didn't forget any of where my brain was running at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, this is 3991, December 24th. We have a full moon at creation. This is not creation, so I'm not quite sure. I don't think he quite understood where I was pointing to December 25th. I was looking for the 8th year. We believe creation was in 3993. I said this might account for 0, December 25th, 3991, the 24th after sunset roughly. The moon is in Leo. This is the time. We have a full moon he's pointing to. He said this is 3994. He's gone to 3994 on December the 25th. And again, he has a full moon. But this is not the year that I'm searching for. This is creation. But creation didn't happen on December the 25th. Creation happened on September the 11th. So it's okay though, because we're going to get to it. What year do you think creation was? I can look. He's looking at creation and not when Adam was removed from the garden in the 8th year, the 4th month, and the 10th day. That's when he was removed from the garden. He said, I love the idea Jesus was conceived on Christmas. Remember how Barry, he's talking about, there's two Barrys we watched. There is Dr. Barry and then the other Barry. Both of them very, very intelligent, very well biblically versed, very smart people. But I don't know who he's referencing here. Remember how Barry explained there is a literal spark of light? That might have been Dr. Barry. I think I remember that one. During conception, he said, how awesome would it be that the star that was used to guide the wise men to Jesus was an interpretation of the light of Jesus' conception, and it was so bright it could guide the world to him. With that exact day count, he calls me Reap. Instead of Repo, he calls me Reap. They call me Reap. I think you proved the two-season theory as well. That's huge. So he does this on October the 1st, in the year 4 BC, when I think now that Jesus was born, and we have a new moon, no moon. And there's no year 0, so this is technically 3 BC, by the way. This is 4 BC, which would allow the wise men to see the star as the moon was empty and out of the sky. Yes, I know they visited him when he was like 2. It's 4 BC. And now I'm at work and I finally see all this and I say, yes, 3993 or 3994. And I said, the Holy Spirit woke me up at 3 a.m. and showed me all of this, unless it was the chili I ate. He said, nah, man, chili is delicious, but not prophetic, unless the Holy Spirit used the chili. And 3994 was a full moon. I said, yes, now go out 8 years. Now here we're getting to the Stellarium of when Adam was removed. And just like it said, in the 4th month, on the new moon, he left. It was the darkest day ever. There was no sunlight. There was no moonlight. It was the darkest day ever when Adam would have left the garden. Now go out 8 years on December the 25th to see if it's a new moon, if Jesus was the replacement for Adam. There are many verses where Jesus said Adam failed, but Jesus came to fix it. If Adam was still in the garden all that time after he sinned in the 2nd month and 17th day on October the 31st, and then finally removed, he would have gone through November and then finally to December the 25th, and he would have been removed from the garden. That would have been a very dark day. Now go out 8 years on December the 25th to see if it's a new moon, if Jesus was the replacement for Adam. And I put in there 12/25/8. And then I said, please. And he said, you want what date, Repo? And I said, or he said +8. And he says, if you count 3994 as 1, then yes. And boom, here we have it. We have the new moon. That did happen on December the 25th, 8 years after creation. Creation happened in 3994, 3993. You have the new moon. This is as good as it gets. It's written in the book of Jubilees. There was a new moon. It's like Watchman on the Wall 88, Chad says, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make this stuff up. I said, no way, guys. I think we are going home on October the 8th at 2:59 p.m. in Israel time, the moment Jesus gave up the ghost. And Whack, I named him Whack. I'm the one that named them on here. Whack. Matt says that he likes my comment. If this is true, then I also think Damascus will give us a 3-day warning. This is me saying that. Remember that Paul, is it Paul? Peter Paul, I always get those two confused. It was Saul. Yeah, Paul. It was Saul. He was killing Christians, and he was blinded by God, and he was blind for 3 days. 3 days. And they took him into Damascus, where he sat blind for 3 days, and then he could see. So this happened on the road to Damascus. I don't have the date, but I'm going to guess if the rapture would occur, and I'm not saying it is. These are just high watch days. I'm not saying this is going to be it, and if it misses, I'm a false prophet. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying this is the next high watch date, October the 8th. And it says, if this is true, then I would think Damascus will give us a 3-day warning. There was a 3-day blindness that Paul had. He was renamed Paul. When he got into Damascus, he was blind for 3 days. Tribulation begins, I believe, on October the 31st, like it did when Adam and Eve sinned in the 2nd month and the 17th day. It is October the 31st. Again, Halloween, the day of destruction. It is not a day for evil people. This is a day where evil people get judged. This is not everybody wants to call it a wicked day. I guess it is. If you're getting judged by God, it is a wicked day. This is also the day the flood began and destroyed everything on planet Earth except for what was in that ark. Now, 1 year and 10 days, Noah was in the ark. On November the 11th, 11/11, the ark door was opened into a whole new world, sinless world at that moment. Of course, there are 8 sinners on the boat, and they're going to continue to sin. But whatever was making, I believe everyone on the planet was just wicked and evil, pretty much like it is now. And when that ark door opened, these 8 people, had an opportunity to follow God and do it God's way. And as you see, ultimately, we went right back to what we were just prior to the flood. But the ark door was opened on November the 11th. And then Kevin says, "I'll take it." I said, "That is the purpose of the moon. It gives the exact date. When you use the moon, sometimes the moon is going to show up, the new moon is going to show up at the head of the month. Sometimes, like this time here, the new moon showed up on the 10th day of the month. Tevet 10, December 25th. Let's see. And then Spinebreaker goes into a bunch of verses, and he likes it. I said, "I know, it's crazy. I never wake up like that. That's why I text everything, so I could verify it all today after work. Only slept 4 hours, and I wasn't even tired." I totally agree. I won't complain if we go on Day of Atonement, but I've never been a Feast of Trumpets fan, but yes, I think it fits nicely. So he's looking for Day of Atonement. Now, again, a lot of people, and that's fine. I'm not opposed to that. Again, I don't hate the moon or anything like that. I don't disagree with them because they're seeing things using the moon as well, and the dates and stuff that they have are slightly different than mine because of the moon. I don't use the moon personally because these day counts are precise and they land perfectly. If we use the moon to start off our new month, when Mary conceives on December 25th, Jesus would not have been born on the first day of Tabernacles. If we use the moon for these months, no month would add up to more than 30 days. It would all be 29 and a half. There would be a month of 30, a month of 29, a month of 30, and a month of 29. And then every so often, they have to fix it. And I don't know about you, but my birthday is on a specific day every year, and it doesn't move because of the moon. We spend a lot of time moving the dates around because of the moon, but we don't do it in our natural lives here. We have a date, and that's the date. It falls on a different day every year, but it's the date. And same thing. If the flood did not begin on October the 31st, and from the flood you count 150 days to when the water began to subside, it would not have landed on the cross. The day count wouldn't have matched because the new moon and all that. If you count from this date, Heshvan 17, and you go to the second month and the seventh month and the 17th day for them pre-flood, you will land at the 153 days later after the flood began, the ark rest on Mount Ararat. None of this will work, and that's why I can't put the moon on this timeline. I can put the 5 calendars that I found on here, and again, everything, if I use any other calendar, then Mary doesn't conceive on December the 25th. Isn't it just amazing how that just falls right there? If I use any other calendar, then the flood and Adam's fall does not happen on Halloween Day, the day that mankind is judged. It's just amazing how it all lands on the timeline, and I just can't ignore it quite yet. So far, it's working very well. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and the YouTubes that I've showed you now and in the past, please go subscribe to them. I want these YouTubes up and running. If mine gets taken down, maybe Matt's doesn't. If Matt's gets taken down, maybe Will's doesn't. If Will's gets taken down, maybe Tony Early, the Cataclysm Tony Early doesn't get. Some of us are not going to be taken down, and we want this information to go past the rapture for the tribulation saint. So go to a quiet place. We're out of time. The rapture's right around the corner. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody, and accept the Lord into your heart. Keep watching. Again, this is a high watch day. I'm not saying the rapture is going to happen. It just that every time I find something, this thing's filling up. Look at this thing. It's filling up. It's just every time I find something, it just falls perfectly on here. And then, like I said when I was talking to you in previous videos, I said I just can't wrap my mind around Feast of Trumpets. because that 8th day nothing happens, and then Tabernacles comes along. I'm like, that I can't keep moving Jesus' birthday. I can't keep moving it. What happens? What exactly happens 40 weeks earlier? And that's what woke me up last night. And I looked at it. I'm like, I did not have. That's backwards for you. I don't even know why I'm showing it. I did not have December 25th on this because I have believed for a long time that it was just a pagan holiday and it's the wrong day for Jesus' birth, so it doesn't work. And then last night, I'm like, wait a second. Exactly to the very day from December 25th, 40 weeks later, we land on the first day of Sukkot, which on my timeline is September 30th. It's 40 weeks exactly. How does that happen? So go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody, and accept the Lord into your heart. We are out of time. And keep your eyes out. I'm watching Damascus. There's so many events going on right now. Anything could and then remember, this is a rapture. This is a pre-rapture. This is going to happen before the first seal opens, and it is going to happen because we're in imminent danger. It is going to be a snatching away, like the Bible says. It's going to be a harpazo. It's going to be a rapturo, like the Latin Bible says. It is going to be a snatching away, just like our Bible in English says. We're going to be yanked out just at the moment of something cataclysmic. Cataclysm, Tony Early. It's going to yank us out of here at the last possible second, and that's what we're looking for. That might be our warning. I don't know what the dragons gets cast out of heaven. There is a war in heaven. Maybe it's raging right now. Maybe it started raging on the first day of Tabernacles on September the 30th, October the 1st. Maybe it's over with on October the 8th. I don't know. But this is just something I found, and take it with a grain of salt and see if it fits. If it fits, then we'll see something. I mean, we're already seeing major things going on. So, all right, Repo Man 64. I think I said everything. We'll chat with you. If I find anything like that or get woke up like that again, that was weird. I just don't get woke up. I just fall asleep, and 5 minutes later, it feels like I wake up. I don't. It doesn't normally happen to me like that. So, last night when I woke up, I was wide awake. I couldn't go. My wife woke up. She's like, "What are you doing?" I says, "I don't know. There's something bugging me. I have to figure this out." She's like, "Go back to sleep." We've been married way too long, and I couldn't fall asleep. I was wide awake. I was awake like as if I was awake, like I had woke up. Time to go to work, So, all right, we'll chat with you later.